FAA. The FAA has been incredibly supportive, and they're really leaning in and very proactive and forward-thinking on embracing these new modes of technology, which will really fundamentally revolutionize how we move as a society.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same. We are working with manufacturers who build aircraft for us. 5 manufacturers: Embraer, Bell, Pipistrel, Aurora Flight Sciences, and Carim. And we expect all 5 of them certainly to benefit from these, from the Part 23 regulations as well.
Yeah, yeah. Ms. Scott?
We haven't been involved with Part 23.
Okay, all right, thanks. And maybe for, this is a somewhat sarcastic question, but it gets to a point. So if you're going to have thousands of these air taxis flying around, will you take the noise complaint calls so I don't have to? Okay, in other words, how are you going to address, it's not just numbers, it's, it's noise. It could be, potentially. So how are you addressing, thinking about that?
Yeah, so second to safety, noise is our very, very high priority, and we've considered it both in the overall vehicle architecture and also the design of every one of the subcomponents on the aircraft. And we're incredibly pleased with the progress. Our aircraft is now more than 100 times quieter than a helicopter. It's really, really spectacular. When it's flying over, you can barely hear it.
At what altitude?
At 1,000 feet.
1,000 feet, yeah.
In a city, you can't hear it at all. It's only if you're in the countryside. I care very passionately about noise. I grew up out in the mountains where it was just absolutely pristine quiet, and I love the quiet. And so as an engineer developing these tools, this was my childhood dream, and to build VTOL aircraft. And when I started working on this more than 25 years ago, I realized that VTOL aircraft were incredibly noisy when they were powered by combustion engines. And so I wanted to build an electric VTOL, but battery-specific energy wasn't what it needed to be, and I needed to wait for the batteries to get to the point where we could build a really quiet vertical takeoff and landing aircraft that allows us to really transform transportation as we know it.
Yeah. I'm sorry I'm out of time, but the other members will have similar questions, I'm sure.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Sam? No? Bob?
Thank you, Chairman. I think when I was 5 years old, my favorite TV show was The Jetsons. I don't know if this is what's going to happen or not. Ms. Yak, is that say? In your testimony, you discussed a roadmap for a full unmanned aircraft integration into the national airspace system, including operation beyond the visual line of sight for the operator. Can you provide us an update on the progress of the integration in that?
From a research perspective, because that's pretty much what we do, the U.S. integration path for research is pretty much a step path, but it's not linear. We can do that in parallel. So you're absolutely right. We're looking at research for operations over people, beyond visual line of sight, package delivery, and then that brings us to the next stage, which is on expanded operations, large cargo delivery of packages, and then ultimately to passenger transportation. So that's our guideline, and we're doing a lot of research in different areas. For instance, research that we're doing that's going to enable UAS integration as well as support urban air mobility is research in the command and control area. So the command and control is the data link between the pilot and the aircraft. So we're doing research from that perspective of frequency levels, the minimum operational performance requirements necessary for that data link to ensure the integrity of that link to allow us to integrate these aircraft into the system.
I guess for anybody in the panel, just further, is technology there where we have a collision avoidance technology that could the equipment, the aircraft itself could take action without, on its own? What's the technology for that? If you got all these things flying around like the Jetsons, I guess, you know. If anybody in the room can remember the Jetsons, you know what I'm talking about.
Congressman Gibbs, thank you for your question. So as we talked about, initially we will deploy these as piloted aircraft, but from day one they have a sensor suite that's embedded on those aircraft that is unprecedented. We have cameras, infrared sensors, LiDAR, radar, And so they can sense the environment around the aircraft in really an unprecedented and exciting way. And over time, as we prove to ourselves and to the FAA that these technologies will make those aircraft and the operation of those aircraft safer than with the pilot, we will begin to add in protections similar to what you see in maybe a level 3 car, where it's a safety net around the aircraft, and it will help the pilot in the case that maybe there's a small drone and you don't see it, but the aircraft can see it and can avoid it. So we see incredible technological progress as we move forward.
What do you see the cost? You know, this moves on, and the cost should come down, but what do you think you're looking at here when this starts coming